Welcome back. Well, chances are you're going to the beach sometime this summer.
Hopefully.
And it's always fun to collect shells and everything else. Tracy Marceron is here with a fun and easy. She said right before we came on, she said, this is easy.
Extremely easy craft. Doesn't require electricity or anything like that. If you don't go to the beach yourself, maybe you have somebody like I know that brings things back from the beach. And when I go, I love to gather seashells and seaweed and all sorts of different odd things, especially sea glass.
Yes.
It's getting a little harder and harder to find that. And I also like to recycle these canning jars, the antique canning jars. They seem to be everywhere. Everybody has a few kicking around they don't know what to do with. This is a great project where you just take the lid. That's going to later on hitch into the side and be held by the side of the jar like that.
Okay.
And then you just need one of the many styles of glass candle holders. And that's just going to go into the top. So the first thing you do is get a little sand. If you go to the beach, remember to gather a little jar of sand. And then you're just going to pour that in the bottom. If you forgot to gather some, you can buy some at the craft store.
Yes, ready-made sand.
And I just put a little buffer. Now you could fill that higher. You could use a couple layers of different colors of sand, but I just start with that amount. If you want to make one, Joy, go ahead and pour in however much you want. And then you can use a piece of driftwood. I think that's really nice for propping up other pieces. Drop in a couple of seashells, some sea glass. And as you work it, you might want a chopstick or a pair of scissors to move things around inside the jar. Another thing you can use is the green Spanish moss. Looks like seaweed when you drop that down in there. It also adds a little bit of color. Sometimes you can nest a couple of shells that you really want to highlight in that seaweed. And, one of my samples, I used a piece of old fisherman's net too, to prop up pieces.
Sure. Okay.
So just have fun with it. If you, I mean, once you get it exactly the way you want, you know, just a few shells makes an interesting arrangement.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
But if you have a lot of all one color shell, that was my other sample here, where I just filled a small jar with all the same type of shell.
Pretty.
And it gives a very simple look. This is a great centerpiece if you have a beach-themed wedding and you want something in the middle of each table that's kind of beach-themed. Any of these would be, but this is particularly nice because it's all in shades of white.
Cheap.
Cheap, very cheap. And this is that other type of candle holder. A lot of people think this, because it's not as fluted as the plant pot style, it's still, you just very carefully rest that on the top, and it barely fits, but it doesn't drop all the way in, and that's the point. And then you're just going to put your candle in that, and something like this, where you've got the candle holder going in the top, the shells are actually what's going to keep that from dropping in the whole way.
That makes sense.
And then you can tie a little piece of homespun or a little bit of raffia onto the side of that if you need a little bit of color. But just have fun with it. And if you don't like it, just dump it back out and start over again.
Yeah, or you can next year if you get better shells.
Exactly. Exactly. And add to it each year.
And what's going on at the theater this week?
We don't have anything going on this week. We just finished theater camp and dance camp. And next week, though, we do have auditions for all the kids in the area. Every child that comes to audition for one of our 3 fall shows will be cast in one of the 3 shows.
Excellent.
Yeah,
all right. Thank you, Tracy. Good to see you as always.